So today I want to talk a little bit about why I, at least personally, believe that online activism is valid. And in case you don't really know what that is, it's essentially activism done online, on the internet. So you might see people signing petitions, writing articles, or you might see people making YouTube videos. So I'm someone who does this. I make videos about deaf awareness, accessibility, mental health. People like Cat Black talk about racism and transphobia. Other people talking about LGBT issues. Just, lots of different marginalized people or, just activists in general talking about social issues online. If reading is more of your thing, I do have a whole article written on Medium, so I'll link that down below so you can go check it out if you want to go take a look. So a lot of people consider this kind of thing to be Slacktivism because they think that if you don't actually go out and join a protest or, vote or all that kind of stuff, you're not really advocating for anything. You're not really participating in any real activism. You're just being lazy. And okay, maybe some people are kind of being lazy about it. I haven't really seen much personally, but for me, I don't really believe that it's all Slacktivism. So let's talk about social media. That's really a big one. So whether it's making videos about it or writing about it, going on Twitter, Facebook, etc., etc., let's be honest here. Social media has either changed a lot or has at least made people more knowledgeable about something so that they can work to try to change it in the future. So I and other deaf people have made videos upon videos about deaf awareness, closed captions, and so many people who didn't know about this and that know about this and that. So videos about captions, more people on YouTube are making videos and having them captioned. If you're newer on this channel and didn't know, 3 years ago, Tyler Oakley came across one of my videos and posted his own video about captions, and that blew up to at least 1 million people, I want to say. And then not too long after that video, Lily Singh, aka Superwoman, brought that up in a tweet, and that was pretty awesome. So it just got more and more people aware of deaf people, accessibility, and captions. And we've seen videos of police who don't really do what they're supposed to be doing, who commit police brutality, and while we may have always had an idea of that happening, we have more of an idea now because people are uploading videos about it happening. And not just about it happening, like talking about it, but we actually see it in action. We brought up how society tends to treat deaf people, disabled people, LGBT people, people of color, trans people, just so many different types of people. And I have to say, before social media, before the internet, I didn't really know a whole lot. I mean, I didn't even really know a whole lot about myself, as a deaf person learning about deaf history. I didn't know a whole lot until the internet came about, or at least until I started taking it more seriously and the internet was already there, but So yeah, hearing or reading other people's stories really opened my eyes and my mind to a lot of different things that I didn't think about before, or I may have thought about it before, but my views back then would be more oppressive than what they are now. So yeah, for me, I think social media does a whole lot of good. It does a whole lot of bad as well, but to say that it doesn't really do anything, to say that it's just being lazy, I don't personally think that that's true. But now let's talk about how accessible real protesting, like in-person physical protesting, I guess, however you want to call it. Let's talk about how inaccessible that can be. For disabled people, it's not really all that accessible for a few reasons. So from a deaf perspective, let's say, if I were to go to a protest, I've been to one or two in my life, there's not a whole lot of accessibility there in terms of, say, captions or ASL interpreters. So if I'm kind of standing there and somebody is giving this big speech, I don't really know what's being said, so how do I really know what I'm fighting for? I mean, if it's posted on Facebook, you kind of get an idea, you see the signs, but if somebody's giving even more information, I want to be able to understand that type of thing, and it's really kind of difficult to do being there in person and not really understanding what's going on. And for more physical disabled people, I have friends who use wheelchairs and canes to get around, and, well, I have chronic pain myself, so I can't stand or walk around for a whole lot, not for a long period of time usually, without getting into a little bit of pain. And with there being so many people, well, if it's a huge protest, with there being so many people, it can be difficult to get around if you need to rest. It can be difficult to sit down if you need to rest. And a lot of people sometimes don't take too kindly to disabled people in the middle of a protest. I believe it was Tatiana and Andrea who went to a protest about something. I can't remember. It might have been about immigration. And people were making really rude comments and asking things like, why are you here? You're in this wheelchair, like you're just getting in the way, you're holding up the line for everybody else. And it's like, really? Is that really necessary? That sounds so rude, you know? And you know, there's a lack of sidewalk for wheelchair users, and I mean, there may be a sidewalk, but there's a high chance that a lot of able people are kind of taking over the sidewalk, and okay, that's fine, at least I think from what I know from others, but if somebody who is in a wheelchair needs that sidewalk because sometimes roads are not so great, sometimes they don't want to move, and that makes it difficult for, say, someone like Tatiana to get involved and get through when she can't even move. And there's also a safety hazard when it comes to disabled people being in these in-person protests. And let me throw a disclaimer in here. Obviously, everyone has a risk of being injured, but the risk is a little bit higher for disabled people. So, for example, let's say somebody hops in with a gun and shoots it, or there's like, I don't know, a knife-wielding person, and some people may be able to hear the gunshots, some people might not be able to, so as a deaf person, I may be confused if I'm not able to hear it. Maybe I might be able to, but I imagine that with a whole bunch of chanting going on, it might get muffled in, because I have a very hard time if I hear something and it's a lot going on at once, I'm not going to be able to really separate the sound. So there's a gunshot and everybody's running around. I'm just like, okay, I have no idea what's going on. And I'm just like looking around like, hey, what's going on? And well, there's a risk that I'm going to get shot because I'm standing around like a headless chicken, like, hey, what's going on? How you doing? Bad thing. And maybe somebody's like trying to give instructions on like what to do, where to go. I'm not gonna be able to understand that type of thing. So it's a little bit of a safety risk, and I get a little bit scared getting involved just because I may not understand what's going on if something bad is going to happen. And also a safety risk for disabled people who use wheelchairs, canes to get around. A lot of people running around all at once makes it more difficult for the person in a wheelchair to get around more efficiently because everybody's gonna start running around, they'll probably bump into the wheelchair, trip over, or everybody's just like kind of blocking the view, puts a disabled person at risk. And obviously I'm someone who likes everyone to be able to get a chance to get to safety, and obviously that chance is a little less than for someone who just isn't going to be able to move efficiently. So those are the main points that I can think of. I am all for in-person protesting. I think it's a great thing and it can really get a message out there. But at the same time, I also recognize, and I hope you all recognize who weren't aware of this, that sometimes it's not always possible to do that and can be a little unsafe, and in order to be able to get the message out, but also be safe about it, sometimes online activism is the way to go. If you have any thoughts on the matter, you're more than welcome to leave them down below, fellow disabled people. If you have other reasons as to why in-person protesting may not be the safest route for you, feel free to leave them down below so that way more people can get educated on that matter. And now, before you go, if you haven't, consider being a pledge on Patreon. It's a great way to support your favorite creators' content. From me, you get things like music playlists, written pieces you won't see anywhere else, and pen pal letters if you pledge high enough. And I will see you later. Bye!